This change and biodiversity. What we see sometimes, and I'll use an example of bowhead whales. We studied bowhead whales off the coast of Alaska, Alpha Point, Barrow, and they do every 10 years they do a survey, and we've been collecting data from that region for many decades now. And what we started seeing is that as population was increasing, their song, the density of song and the complexity of song was changing as well. So I think there is that idea, if you want to see forward moving kind of evolution of this vocalization and how that moves through time and space in a place where these animals are provided a place and a space to kind of thrive and come back to its kind of the natural state before human intervention really reduced their numbers and their populations. You start seeing they're forming a more complex vocal communication channels or repertoire, so to speak. And maybe that's a signal of something of a reemergence of a culture, which I cannot scientifically prove, or I don't have evidence to prove it, but it has the tendencies of that. And I don't know whether that exists in other populations and other species. But you can also take the example of humpback whales. Their population has recovered in many parts of the world, and they're very enigmatic singers. And potentially more population creates the competition to be more innovative, and that probably drives the diversity of singers and the elements in their songs. But it can also go other way. It could go it could be that a very dominant song or pattern of vocalization is more successful, and everybody converge towards that. So it's not always linear, but if you're paying attention, you can see some of this kind of dynamics going on.
I think on the one hand, the idea of a sort of overarching concept of nature is really helpful, because I think what ends up happening is this idea, we understand and we care about what we're connected to. So we listen to people, let's say we're traveling overseas, and, you hear somebody speaking a similar language, you immediately turn to them and be like, oh, I have something with them. Or, people, from the same place that meet somewhere else, and they realize, oh, you're from there, I'm from there too. And then, and they're doing some degree of matching the way that they're speaking. So it's connection. So I think the idea of for humans being able to appreciate the diversity of the animal soundscapes and realize that we can hear what's happening with nature. We can understand it, is it healthy? Is it thriving? How many critters are represented? Just through what we're hearing, I think is inherently important. Being able to have this appreciation for nature is fundamental to the continuation of biodiversity. On the flip side, I think the difficulty in having, or the one challenge of having a concept like Mother Nature, is that it implies some degree of invincibility or resilience, that there is an all overarching power that's going to get us through all of this, and we don't have to worry about our actions in terms of doing horrible things to the planet or to nature. And so the other, my fear is that, reliance on a concept like Mother Nature, she's not strong enough to save us all and to keep this planet going. We have some accountability in terms of the conservation and preservation of nature. It requires action upon us as well. So I think, if we view the concept of Mother Nature as bringing us all together and having or increasing an appreciation of biodiversity and creating connection between humans and nature, I think that's great. If we basically say, oh, Mother Nature's here and we get a pass, and I can continue to engage, I don't have to change my behaviors, the planet will be fine for another 100 years, I think that it would be concerning. So I think there's two ways to look at it. I like to be an optimist, so I would personally try to shift towards the former, of being able to really pursue connection and to make other people aware of that connection. We have a pretty miraculous planet. I'd like to keep it that way.